In the Sibrel DVD, he accuses the Apollo astronauts of using camera trickery to fake a shot of Earth from 130,000 miles out,
to achieve a disingenuous picture depicting the Earth at a distance, in order to falsely demonstrate their far journey from it.
On their way to the moon, the Apollo 11 astronauts made 3 television broadcasts. The first 2 were unscheduled, and were intended primarily to allow them to get familiar with the camera controls.
And how about the f-stop? Is 22 going to be adequate?
The third broadcast was scheduled, and seen by millions, watching on their TV sets. The Sibrel DVD contains footage from this public broadcast.
It looks good on the monitor as far as...
Therefore, the DVD's claim that it is never before seen footage is a complete fabrication. In A Funny Thing Happened, the narrator makes many false assumptions. Here is one example.
If the window was completely filled up with a TV camera, as he stated, then an astronaut's arm would not be able to get between the camera and the window, as it obviously does here in this outtake. Then an astronaut's arm would not be able to get between the camera and the window, as it obviously does here in this outtake.
The arm the narrator refers to is actually just the edge of the command module's window, through which Buzz Aldrin was shooting his video of Earth. The window was identical to this example from Apollo 7. Notice the straight vertical edges. This will become important a bit later. Now listen, as the narrator explains how the astronauts are supposedly faking their shot of Earth from halfway to the moon.
What they have ingeniously done is placed the camera at the back of the spacecraft and centered the lens on a circular window in the foreground, outside of which it is completely filled with the Earth in low orbit. The circumference of the window then appears to be the diameter of the Earth at a distance, with the darkened walls of the spacecraft appearing to be the blackness of space around it.
Easily the most controversial statement on his Funny Thing Happened DVD, Sibrel is claiming that the astronauts were actually in low Earth orbit. And the image of Earth shown here is the near Earth, filling up a round porthole window in the spacecraft. He then says the astronauts blocked out all light, so the inside of the porthole would not be visible, and a new, distant Earth is formed. It sounds good to a casual observer, but there are several major problems with the statement. First, if you'll remember back to the previous segment, the window Buzz Aldrin was shooting through was square, not round. Second, if they really were in low Earth orbit, the Earth would be moving by quite fast, instead of the relatively static image shown in Apollo 11. Notice how different these videos of Earth from a recent space shuttle mission would look through our virtual porthole. Notice how the Earth's rotation can be easily seen, even in the short clip. Now compare this cropped image of Earth from 220 miles up to the Apollo images Sibrel and his team want us to believe are from the same low orbit. If Apollo 11 is as close to Earth as Sibrel states, why is there no rotation commensurate with that altitude in the Apollo video? Our technical advisor, Sat Weavers, also created these test images. They show how a cropped Earth would look if shot from low orbit. These images were taken only minutes apart, yet they show huge changes in surface features, something that is noticeably missing from the Apollo videos.
The western U.S.
The reason is obvious. Earth's rotation is much less noticeable when viewed from 130,000 miles away. Take note of how Buzz Aldrin is holding the video camera in his hands. He is moving back and forth inside a zero-G capsule, all while trying to keep Earth in frame. Naturally, the situation lends itself to a lot of camera movement. It is because of this camera movement that their hypothesis falls apart. Think about what you're seeing. With the camera shaking and constantly changing positions, would the artificial horizon, created by a round window, remain in the same place, or would it move, revealing different parts of the Earth? We decided to do a test and find out. For this demonstration, a lighted globe was put in position behind a piece of cardboard with a hole cut out. Then, all the room lights were turned out to simulate the conditions inside the command module. Our new view of Earth was then videotaped. The black cardboard represents the inside of the spacecraft, and the hole represents the porthole window Aldrin was supposedly shooting through. As you can see, our cropped image of the globe looks quite good. But when the camera begins to move around, as it did when Aldrin was shooting, something interesting happens. Notice how the artificial horizon created by our makeshift porthole now changes its position in relation to the rest of the globe. As the camera moves, less of Earth is revealed on one side, and more is revealed on the opposite side. As shown here, the entire continent of Australia completely disappears, with only a few inches of camera movement. If Aldrin really had been shooting Earth in low orbit through a porthole window, his camera movements would have shown the same effect. Clearly, this is not the case. Author David Percy is a colleague of Bart and also an Apollo conspiracist.
Was also found by a fellow TV producer and Apollo researcher, Bart.
It's interesting to note that he apparently agrees with us when it comes to the pitfalls of shooting through a porthole with a handheld camera.
It would be difficult to keep the subject well framed, as you can see from this illustration. The Earth in the far distance would be cut off by the window in the foreground when any movement of the camera occurred. We've rimmed the edge of the window white for clarity. Remember, it was handheld.
For further proof, sat-weavers obtained these more recent photos of Earth, taken by the Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellite, or GOES, for short. Remember, Bart states quite confidently that the image Apollo 11 showed of Earth was actually just a smaller area of a much larger planet. But in analyzing these whole Earth images from the GOES weather satellite, striking similarities with the original Apollo 11 video can be seen. Some weather patterns are common on planet Earth, such as the band of clouds diagonally traversing the Pacific, creating the same arrowhead shape seen in the Apollo video from 1969. The scale and shape of these cloud patterns, taken some 35 years apart, adds strong new evidence that we actually are seeing the entire Earth in the images shot by the Apollo crew. Taking into account all the evidence just presented, low-orbit Earth rotation velocity, shooting with a handheld camera, and cloud pattern comparisons, it can be confidently stated that Bart Sibrel's porthole theory is, unequivocally, busted. As we just learned, David Percy is another well-known moon hoax advocate. Along with Mary Bennett, he wrote a book called Dark Moon. Despite fighting for the same cause, Mr. Percy does not agree with Sibrel about his porthole theory. Instead, he believes the Apollo 11 crew used a transparency taped to the command module window to fake the now famous footage of Earth.
And when it's clipped up against the window, it becomes illuminated by the light of the sun behind it.
Okay, Level, we have a picture. We see the Earth right in the center of the screen, over.
Listen, as Percy describes his version of what happened.
Returning to the sequence where we left off, when the lights have been switched on, the other window shade opens and the exposure adjusted, we can see astronaut Mike Collins. The left-hand window we've just been looking at is now overexposed, but as we get closer, we can see that something is indeed clipped in front of the window. Is it that window-sized colour transparency of the Earth, with the sunlight glowing white behind it? It looks very much so. Why would they need to be videoing a picture of the Earth?
Percy is speculating that the bluish haze we're seeing here is a transparency of Earth clipped to the window. In fact, it's nothing more than overexposed Earth light being diffused by a 3-pane window. The side windows in the Apollo command module consist of 3 panes of glass with a large nitrogen-filled space between the outer pane and the second pane. These windows were notorious for collecting film deposits and fogging. This helps explain the refraction of Earth light seen in the Apollo 11 video. Through his extensive research, Sat Weavers also discovered that the fused silica used for the outer panes had a blue-red spectral filter coating. This coating shifted the blue Earth light coming through even more toward the blue end of the spectrum. Couple the window's diffusing properties with the fact that an already bright Earth was greatly overexposed when Aldrin opened the camera lens, and Percy's mysterious transparency is revealed for what it actually is: just overexposed, refracted Earth light. One example of this diffusion effect can be seen here from the same mission. Watch as the camera's iris is opened just a little. When the lens was opened all the way, the scattering effect was more pronounced. To some, this looked like a transparency. Others saw it as Earth in low orbit. As just demonstrated, it was neither.
Looks like to me anyway, on the monitor.
During Apollo 11's voyage to the moon, the crew made several TV broadcasts showing Earth in the far distance. To further analyze Percy's transparency theory, we've taken still frames from these broadcasts and compared the images of Earth at various time intervals. Remember, Percy makes the bold claim that we're actually seeing a static transparency of Earth taped to the window. If this is true, Earth's surface features should not change over a given span of time. Our first comparison is from the first TV broadcast, about 10 hours and 32 minutes into the flight. These two images were shot about 15 minutes apart. Look closely as we switch the images. The change is most obvious across the terminator line as nighttime gradually moves westward. Next, we have a comparison from the third transmission at 34 hours into the mission. The time lapse here is approximately 18 minutes. Since Earth rotates at over 1,000 miles an hour, there will be slight differences visible even from 130,000 miles away. Finally, compare our first shot of Earth from 10.5 hours into the mission to an image taken almost 24 hours later. Remember, Percy says all these images are from a static transparency, which obviously cannot move. So if we've just been looking at a still photo the entire time, why is Earth showing clear signs of rotation? We asked Mr. Percy this question. His response was that different transparencies were used. However, these videos of Earth were one continuous shot with no edits, so it would not have been possible to insert a new transparency. Given the fact that the mystery transparency turned out to be nothing more than overexposed Earth light, and signs of Earth rotation are very obvious, it can be confidently stated that David Percy's transparency theory is unequivocally busted. In researching this documentary, hours and hours of footage from the Apollo missions were analyzed. In viewing the NASA video reels, we noticed something quite unusual. If you remember, it was stated earlier that Apollo 11 sent 3 TV transmissions back to Earth during their trip to the moon. The first one came at 10 hours and 32 minutes into the flight. The last one came at 33 hours and 59 minutes in. Bart Sibrel and David Percy both show clips from these two transmissions in their respective videos. But wait. There was another TV transmission at 30 hours and 28 minutes, mission time. Curiously, not a single frame of it was used in Bart Sibrel's DVD or David Percy's documentary. In fact, they don't even mention it. We wondered why this particular video was not included in their productions until we viewed it, and the answer became clear. Keep in mind, Bart Sibrel assures us we are seeing a cropped version of Earth through a tiny porthole, and David Percy says we are seeing a photograph of Earth taped to the window. Watch now, and you'll discover the clear reason neither of them wanted to show this TV transmission from Apollo 11 at 30:28 mission time. It's important to note, the shot never cuts away.
Hello, Apollo 11, Houston, please select Sunday Bravo on board, over. Take on the Bravo, Johnny. Roger. If we really went to the moon, then anyone who says otherwise is an idiot.
Pictures of Mars, he drew us maps of the stars. The ones we sent to the moon, through the future's machines, their faces sold magazines. The ones we sent to the moon, they built them stars we could chase and gave us fashion from space. The ones we sent to the moon, we watched it all with our folks. It was the world's biggest hoax. Sent to the moon. Point the way to the sky, pray that emo would die. Bring back the new wave. Had a hopper, she lied. You look familiar to me. Suzanne Shed 63. Play them yum yum. T-shirts and skirts with a sigh.
Thank you.